Good morning. Good morning. I look forward to talking to you today about the virus, about its life course, about its mutations, what they're finding in these mutations, and how these are changing us. You better believe it. We need to be careful and prudent about understanding these mutations in the virus. And so as a result, I really want to go to this paper that's from, it's got about 50 scientists in it. I'm trying to stay on top of all of this. The virus steals our genetic code to create new paired genes. This reminds me of something we've been talking about back in our oxygenated environment. Many millions of years ago, lots of oxygen, many millions years ago, right? Let's talk about that. And what moved in on the worm? We were little worms or whatever, small animals, very small. We've become multicellular and we needed oxygen to survive. That's our ancestors, including fungi. We are related to mushrooms. And so what do mushrooms do? They kind of, golly, our brain cells and our eukaryotic cell. What is a eukaryotic cell? It's a cell with a nucleus and a nucleolus and things like the endoplasmic reticulum and the Golgi apparatus and now we have mitochondria, and there are other vesicles, endocytes, lymphocytes, phagocytes, ACE receptors when we need them, any number of things. And there are a lot of metals that come in and out of this system, and elements like potassium, chloride, I think chloride's in there, salts, NaCl, of course, oxygen. The calcium is a big part of cell function. Copper is a big part of cell protective issues. It's hot as hell down here in Virginia. I'm just dressing for the weather, right? Okay, calcium. There's iron that transports the oxygen that comes in a 2 and a toxic 2 and a less toxic 3 electron form. There's manganese, not magnesium, manganese, that pries oxygen out of water, as we know, and other things. So that's the eukaryotic cell. And mitochondria are a big part of that cell. I usually do them in purple. Sometimes I forget. We'll do the happy ones in this kind of purple. Yeah, oxygenated purple. And they come by in a liver cell. There's like some cells, like hemoglobin, they have a life course with mitochondria, and then mitochondria say, hey, hemoglobin, you're on your own. And the mitochondria lead the hemoglobin. That's really interesting, that they can bring a cell to a point, as in our hemoglobin, that it's independent. Yippoo! It's like the mitochondria have taught the hemoglobin, red blood cell, to be independent. That's fascinating. If true. I read that in a scientific article, and I get my articles from Google Scholar, put in my keywords, and I read and research and look and try to keep up with all of this. So a mitochondria is the ticket between a dependent cell and an independent cell. Right? It's like a child leaving the nest and becoming, depending on its parents for all those years, and then becoming independent. And so the mitochondria make this happen. Apparently, they're with it from for the most of the life cycle of the red blood cell. Then they can drop off and leave the cell. How cool is that? So the mitochondria have made us who we are in an oxygenated environment. And mitochondria need oxygen, and they deliver through chemical processes that include these electrons that are up in the iron, coming in and out of the mitochondria. to generate fuel for us. And what kind of fuel does that do? It's a creative fuel. Creates tangles and fibrillary issue things, and even the A beta is cleaved in the, I was wondering my coffee was, mitochondria during hypoxic conditions. It's part of the gooing up and shutting down. So hypoxia signals for progressively signals for cell death. Okay, let's look at COVID-19, which is a low oxygen, which we have quite efficiently, I'm not saying we, because I'm not part of it, but no, I am. I drive around, I breathe more than my share maybe. This is the COVID-19. So this is 2020, and this is, AD, and this is BC. How's that, 2020? And beyond, and way back. So hopefully this, we'll go back here and not go take this virus forward. But at this point, the virus is mutating, and it's mutating just like mitochondria mutated to get into us. Now, I've said before that mitochondria, to me, it's pretty clear it comes from the Gallionella metals-based bacteria that has its own DNA. So Gallionella is found near iron ore mines and other areas where there's iron and manganese, oxygen, and water, and sunlight. I forget to mention that. So it's in the presence of water here, but not in water. Yet when it gets in, and you'll find it kind of has a core clusters, but then it has a lot of tangles and fibrillary. You'll see it. And if you look at it and you look at a mitochondria, you'll say, oh, they look a lot alike. Yeah, they do look a lot alike. And here's another fact about mitochondria. When it's in water, so this is the top where the sunshine is. When it's in water, it maintains this cute little bean shape. Let's get back to our purple. I'm hanging on to this research I want to talk to you about. It takes me a long time to get to the research, doesn't it? It maintains it maintains the shape. Probably down here too, a little bit. And it's also in this thing, it splits the, right? And it also splits it down here, but there's less sunlight. And down here, it doesn't split water from however it works down in the lower levels. There's a lot of manganese down here. A lot of manganese down here. And you need manganese here, and you need manganese here. You need manganese for this thing to function under any and all conditions. And so down here, the manganese decomposes and creates sediments. Interesting. Okay, so enter COVID-19, which is different from our mitochondria, in that it's a virus. And what's a virus? It's it cannot. Gallionella has a DNA, so it can basically live on its own. Lives in the blood cells alone. It doesn't really need us to survive. We need it to survive. That's the difference here. And the virus needs us to survive. And God help us, we do not need it to survive. This is the oxymoron of what I'm seeing in this virus. We have flipped the evolutionary needs of this planet. We have flipped the elements of survival for this planet. I'll put it real quickly. In the past, mostly oxygen, a lot of water for us, big oxygen, quite a bit of oxygen, and just a little bit of glucose. We didn't need that much. This is how we have evolved. And yet, what are we doing now? Glucose, we eat all the time. Water is not coffee, not Coke, not this, not that, not sugar water, expensive, polluted, and oxygen. We are boxed in and we don't even realize the importance of how we need to breathe. To sustain this evolutionary trajectory that we have been living for the last millions of years. So just a quick reminder, this is the virus. No, I'm sorry, where's it doing there? The virus is over here, right? The virus is saying, yeah, this is what we like. We like people who are full of fat and glucose and who are hypoxic. And at EVOL, that's us, evolution, our evolution, being able to, that's what I study, proxia, ultroxia, optoxia. Please watch my series and start to practice breathing. They're great ways to breathe, and the benefits are like spectacular, beyond your wildest dreams. The piano plays itself. The piano plays itself. That's fun. Other things, excuse me, I'm trying to get this. I was given a suggestion to keep my game up towards the, how's that? Let's see. How's that? We'll try that. This work. Here we go. How's that? Good. Perfect. So we evolved in a very high oxygen, millions of years, and going, right? MYG. This virus has moved in on the past 200 years. And you can see these viruses are all over the place in the last, and we finally have one that sticks. And it's not only sticking, it's mutating and evolving with us. So what's the mutation that their latest finding? And they're finding it like in Bangladesh, and it's also happening here. It's just happening because in response, the virus is not a living thing. It is half a DNA. It's an RNA, ribonucleic acid, which is kind of a messenger thing, viral. And it splits into two parts. It has a leader one, which is a 5 dimer thing, RNA, and a viral short, which is a 3 dimer RNA. This is the leader. This goes to our mitochondria. And our mitochondria are hijacked and abused, used, trashed, pillaged, and destroyed. And this goes into the nucleolus, where our DNA, this goes into our DNA, and this goes into our mitochondria. So we've talked about that yesterday, but what I'm going to talk about now is this research. God, it always takes me about 15, 20 minutes to get to the main point, but that's okay. Take a breath, be patient. As these words I'm saying, think, what is she saying? Why does she keep saying the same thing? What is this language? Don't bring your amygdala into it. That's how I learned neuroscience. It's pretty good. Mount Sinai Hospital. That's pretty good. New study unveils a novel mechanism that allows viruses to produce unexpected proteins. So they produce proteins. They steal. Whereas mitochondria build us and have built us from this little worm to this, bada bada, me voila. This coronavirus steals from us, and it's also mutating to stay with us because it's more pervasive and a little less toxic. Those who survive it are going to be okay, but this thing has entered into our cytosol. This is incorporating with our own DNA, mutating from our DNA, like a scene out of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. This is from Science Daily, which summarizes, scientists summarize these huge studies. I mean, we're talking 50 scientists on this study. This virus infects a host and converts it into a factory to make more copies of itself. Large groups of viruses, including the COVID, steal genetic signals to expand their own genomes. Now, look at the difference. This is the mitochondria all over the map. It bonded with us to contain its own genomes. Much different scenario. This virus comes out of, I think, a bat, right? That's a bat, a butterfly. There you go. Butterflies don't have ears and teeth and claws. Came out of bats and these nocturnal, hypoxic-like animals who do not, we have to study those too. And it's half of a thing. It's an RNA. So whereas the mitochondria is this big conglomerate, if you look at this Gallionella and bacteria that reproduces on itself and brings its own DNA with it, it's pretty self-contained. And inside of us, it becomes very contained. It wants this. Whereas this virus moves in and just explodes within us, steals from us and explodes within us as it kills our cells. So, my projection on this is pretty grim because we have reversed the components of our environment and our interaction with that environment. We're not breathing enough. We're eating too much. We don't have fresh water. So if we want to continue to evolve as these master blalas, then we need to revisit what we have done to the planet and what we have done to our lifestyles. I talk with people a lot about, I'm going to diverge here. I talk with people a lot to in the Hamiltonian, Jeffersonian fork in the road of our country. We went the Hamiltonian route. We went industry. And industry, let's face it, for all its, everything it's caused some problems. This is a big problem. This is a big problem because Mother Nature will stop the problem, and that's what this virus is. This virus is a response to the environment we have created and how we have mutated our biology to be primarily glucose. It's a problem. So that's going on there, and it's heavy stuff. So we need to look at it in this regard, so we can make some decisions that are meaningful. So the Hamiltonian went to industry. The Jeffersonian model: give everybody their own land, let them farm, keep them in communities, keep the communities together, let them find their own culture, let them be self-contained and grow. That's the utopian. I think they call it the agrarian. Excellent. Let's revisit that. We made a decision 200 years ago. We've given it, a while to work, 250 maybe. In light of this virus and the fact that it is doing what it's doing to de-evolve us, not the least of which there's a 5-unit strand on their genetic code that is purely Neanderthal. Purely Neanderthal, which tells me that 220 million years ago there was a genetic code that we were dealing with in the process of mitochondrial mutation that's coming back, and this code is implanting itself in us. Okay, let's go on with this article. The finding is presented in a study published in Cell, major scientific journal, June 25th. Cross-disciplinary study, researchers at the Mount Sinai, New York, and Glasgow virus research in the UK. Cross-disciplinary team of virologists. These are segmented negative strand viruses, widespread in humans, animals, plants, stealing genetic signals from their host. These viruses produce a wealth of previously undetected, let's call them new proteins. So this virus is going to reshape us to accommodate all the sugar and glucose we can live for 5 weeks without food. Well, a lot of us don't even wait 5 minutes. We're popping the next thing in our mouth. I'm guilty of that too. These UFO proteins alter the course of the infection. And, they're looking at it for vaccine purposes. Well, good luck vaccinating this out. Because guess what? You get rid of this and just like SARS, it's going to be back. And SARS in 2003 also went to the mitochondria. Okay. What proteins a pathogen encodes, how they function. Viruses can't build their own proteins. They need to feed their RNA, they need to kill our cell to steal our cap snatching. So we have our own RNA as we're growing and evolving. The environment signals to us, the mitochondria provide the energy for all of this messenger RNA. We have messenger RNA, beautiful DNA that has developed through the help of mitochondria, and the mitochondria signals for the messenger RNA so that we self-actualize and we build that genetic code and we transform within a human lifespan. That's what I try to study and tell you all about. So that's good. This article is so rich. So the host sequence is not silent. The viral RNA snatches our codes and takes what it wants to make itself. This is evolution. This is mutation. This is what I see it as de-evolution. If a Neanderthal code is going to show up in this thing, this is de-evolution. We are allowing it. We need to take a very look at this, exploiting. They can make their own genes, unsuspected genes, new things. They're mutating in us in response to the environment. We evolved in an oxygenated environment, foraging, interacting, sensory, all sorts of things. We don't need those things anymore. We're very hypoxic. We don't need to forage. It's all provided for us. All right. So it's a very interesting article. I'll put a link to it. And there's 50 researchers. Hybrid gene origination creates human virus chimeric proteins during infection. So that virus is in there making stuff to change us. And that is what will be encoded in our evolving DNA, which is a de-evolving DNA. And we need to revisit the Jeffersonian. Oh, hi, Jim. Great question. Listen, I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a nutrition specialist. My thought is to stay hydrated, have a very, there's a lot of thinking to be done about this, Jim. Thanks for your question. Jim says, Jim Brennan, is it advantageous to eat only once or twice per day? We're at the point where we're saying eat 5 small meals a day. So there's some mix, and that seems to work for our glycolytic status. So eating once or twice a day, I don't know. I mean, these nutrition. This is a cross-disciplinary question. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm a neuroscientist, biologist, physiologist, evolutionary scientist, biogenesis, embryogenesis, neurogenesis. So to look at and oxygen specialist, I'm a pro-oxic, solution-based, oxygen first, how the oxygenated brain works. Now, in light of best case nutrition, we need to get some top minds from the nutrition world. What can, I don't study the nutrition science. I just study the oxygen science. So, I guess I do have my silo with tentacles all over the place. But thanks for that question. And so I'm going to cut out today. It's been a great session today. Very important to understand that this virus is moving in on what the status quo of the world. What is that? Overpopulated, polluted beyond measure, greenhouse gases. What I'm finding is I live kind of between the mountains in Washington, D.C. Wow, I can see the mountains every day. I could not see them. I've been here for years. I could never see the mountains. Very rarely could I see a little, outline in the haze. Well, that haze is gone. And those mountains are like every day. I'm like, dang on, I can see these things all the time, even on cloudy days. They just cut right through. So the haze is lifting. The toxic haze is lifting. And in my environment where I live, this planet has really bounced back. It's nice and cool. It's only the last couple of days it's been really, pretty hot and humid. So the Mother Nature bounces back quickly. So we have a chance here to learn some other perspectives on what this virus is and what it's doing, how it's de-evolving. Thank you, Jim. Look forward to talking to you. You're a great colleague. And so how can we learn from this? I want to evolve within a human lifespan. That's my goal. Oxygenation will make that happen. So right after this, I'm going to go ahead and do my pro-oxia session on breathing techniques, mechanical breathing, olfactory, aromatherapeutic breathing, counted breath, cognitive breaths, guided breaths, hypnosis type events, what's going on in the brain, the brainstem, the cerebellum, and the networks we fuel. We fuel like complex networks. So reading is combined with sensory, is combined with imagination. Reading is combined with posture and learning how to do surgery. So we can build these networks and fuel them and literally make them grow like plants. You see them, you see the seeds being implanted, and the neurons and the dendrites and the terminals grow, bond, create, and it happens very quickly. And you would be very surprised how quickly a cell dies and is engulfed by hypoxic processes as the mitochondria desperately try to manage what's going on in our brain and our functional abilities. That's a tremendous science. It's a solution-based science. I try to demystify and formulate solution-based science and medicine. And if the Nobel Prize from 2019 says all disease is hypoxic, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad they recognize that, because I have been in the solution. Oxygenation is the solution. Normoxia is a start. Primoxia is exercise and like going to yoga and doing 20 minutes of this and that. Prooxia is understanding everything needs to be fueled by breath. Unless you want to do something really, and then you have to prepare for that, hold your breath and do something really, then you get back to breathing and understanding the timing of it. Ultroxia is understanding that, yeah, I'm going to build some networks here, and I know how to do it with an oxygen gradient. And optoxia is having experience with all of that and just trusting that, you know what? No sweat or Rooney. Just continue to breathe, and life unfolds in a providential, greater than just like this virus has come together in this environment, we come together in our environments when we're oxygenated. That's life. That's the mysteries of life. Some people call it God. I call it starts with the DNA God. Optoxia, that DNA God is alive and well from our practices, ongoing practices, hydration, oxygenation, proper nutrition, sleep, exercise, cardiovascular, that whole spiritual realm where we're not really in control. We've got a big old fat frontal cortex that makes us lock in to control without mentors, without guidance. We know it all. No, we don't. Experience, aging health, aging wealth can share their experience with us. Older persons have been there, done that, and know the trajectories, have learned the lessons. They have built the networks of lessons and experience while we are moving forward in our evolution, evolving within a human lifespan. Very important for us to honor and guard that, especially as this virus is moving in to work with what we have created, which is flipped our environment and de-evolving us very efficiently, systematically. The main point of this article is that this thing is mutating to sweep across everyone. Everyone's going to get it. It's very virulent, very contagious, more and more contagious, less and less invasive. Just like the mitochondria, it's in everything. And I'm sure there were quite a few fatalities when it first started. Then it got friendlier and friendlier and friendlier and friendlier. And here we are. We can't live without it. On the right side, yeah. The virus, if we continue with this world the way we are doing it, polluting it, destroying the water, glucose everywhere, this is going to do the same thing. It's killing a lot of people in the beginning, less and less, getting friendlier, but eventually it's going to be in all of us, stealing our genes, mutating our genes, turning us, destroying cells, hypoxic cells, goodbye, moving into our mitochondria, it targets it. This is a mitochondrial virus. Make no mistake, the leader RNA of this virus goes into our mitochondria, and the mitochondria are destroyed, but only after they make all the vesicles for the things to live in. The mitochondria make things for us. They used to. Now they're making things for the virus. And the virus seems to be kind of taking the place of our mitochondria. Warning, warning, warning. And I'm coming to you as a origins of life scientist, evolutionary scientist, physiologic scientist, neurogenesis, embryogenesis, oxygenation scientist, the use of music as free energy to, we don't have to create energy to feel that way, feel the way music helps us feel, all the ways music makes us feel. So that's where I'm coming from. And I have the degrees and masters and PhDs, graduate degrees, everything coming, and the colleagues and the experience. And let's see what we can do to understand and keep our children evolving. We want our children to evolve. And a lot of things that's going on right now are more on the de-evolution, these bits and bytes, these little surface things. They're not going deep enough to enable evolved networks. And there are a lot of ways to test that. And maybe we need to get out of these plastic walls we live in and experience life the way it was meant, that we've evolved to experience it in. Okay, that's enough for me. Blessings to all. Jim, be well. Hope to talk to you soon. Take care.